What if I told you that talent is overrated? Motivation is unreliable, and the biggest reason most people fail is something they ignore every single day. It's not intelligence, it's not luck, it's not opportunity, it's self-discipline. The uncomfortable truth is this. The gap between the life you have and the life you want is built from the tiny decisions you make every day. The alarm you snooze, the workout you skip, the task you postpone, the excuses you repeat. Success isn't destroyed by one big mistake. It's quietly stolen by thousands of small moments of weakness. But here's the good news. Self-discipline is not a personality trait. It's a skill, and like any skill, it could be trained. In this audiobook, The Power of Self-Discipline, you'll discover how to control your impulses, eliminate procrastination, and build the mental toughness required to achieve what most people only dream about. Because the people who win in life aren't the most talented. They're the ones who can do what needs to be done, even when they don't feel like doing it.
Hello, everyone. Hi, all. Welcome to Book Podcast Zone.
It's absolutely fantastic to be here for this one. The material we're looking at today is just incredibly powerful.
It really is, and I'm so ready to unpack all of this with you and for you, the listener.
Yeah, we're really going to connect the dots today. We'll dissect the psychology and dig into the deeper biological and behavioral mechanics behind these concepts.
Exactly. So let's set the stage for you. Today's journey is a comprehensive 8-part exploration based on the phenomenal work of Peter Hollins.
Specifically, his insights from The Power of Self-Discipline.
Right. We are unpacking the roadmap to becoming what he calls the architect of will, and we are going incredibly deep today.
Yeah, no quick life hacks here.
None at all. We're taking a long-form, truly transformative look at mastering your daily habits. It's an intensive roadmap. We're moving from foundational mindset shifts into the evolutionary biology that's working against you.
Which is fascinating, by the way.
Oh, totally. And all the way down to the neuropsychology of willpower.
Yeah.
Before finally building rock-solid behavioral systems.
So grab a notebook, get comfortable. Or, if you're driving or walking, just lock in with us.
That is the perfect way to frame it. The mission here is permanent transformation. It's about moving away from that fragile reliance on motivation.
Because motivation is a biological trap.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we want to move you toward a resilient, discipline-first identity, giving you back total control over your own choices. So let's jump right into the foundational premise, Chapter 1.
Let's do it.
Hollins argues that self-discipline is the ultimate anchor in everyday life. And here's where it gets really interesting for me. I want to look at this through the specific lens of right now.
Okay, I like where this is going.
The March 2026 vibes. Think about the psychology of this specific time of year for a second.
The New Year's energy is gone.
Officially faded. January was full of vision boards, right? Bold declarations.
And dopamine hits everywhere.
Exactly. Dopamine hits from just setting the goals. But March is the crucial post-winter reset.
Yeah, the novelty has completely worn off by now.
And this is the exact moment where your true discipline is tested. It's that big picture mindset shift from waiting for a spark of motivation to actively building an identity that just doesn't need the spark at all.
And the psychology of why we rely on motivation is, well, it's fascinating and deeply rooted in our neurochemistry.
How so?
Well, as humans, we naturally lean on motivation first because it feels incredibly good.
Right.
When you set a new goal in January, you get a massive spike of dopamine. That's the neurotransmitter associated with reward and pleasure.
Even before you've actually done anything.
Precisely. You haven't done any of the work yet, but just visualizing the new, healthier, wealthier, it floods your system with feel-good chemicals.
So the task feels exciting instead of daunting.
Yeah, you are quite literally riding a neurochemical wave.
But that wave always crashes, doesn't it?
Always. And the danger is that we start to believe this neurochemical high is a prerequisite for action.
We tell ourselves, I'll do it when I feel ready.
Or, I'm just waiting for the right mood.
Yeah, I've said that a million times.
Yeah, we all have. But Hollins makes it incredibly clear here. Waiting for the right mood is a catastrophic trap, especially when the environment shifts.
Like in late winter and early spring.
Exactly. It's a notoriously difficult time for human psychology. The days are shifting, the weather is unpredictable.
And that New Year's dopamine reservoir is completely empty.
You're running on fumes. So this requires a conscious, deliberate unlocking of inner power. You have to generate the drive internally.
Rather than waiting for external inspiration to strike, I want to ground this in a really visceral, real-world scenario. Because, the theory sounds great, but the execution is brutal.
It's the hardest part.
Let's talk about the transition to daylight saving time, which happens every single March here in the United States.
Oh, yeah. That is a perfect example.
You literally lose an hour of sleep overnight. It's an aggressive disruption to your circadian rhythm. So imagine you are living in Chicago or Boston.
Cold cities.
Very cold. Your alarm goes off at 6 a.m., but biologically, your body is screaming that it's 5:00 a.m.
Because of the time change.
Right. You look out the window, and because the clocks just sprang forward, it is pitch black outside again. The floorboards are freezing.
The worst feeling.
And you have a cold morning commute waiting for you. In that exact moment, your motivation is completely, utterly destroyed.
Zero external inspiration.
Exactly. There is no inspiration to pull the covers off and go for a run, or even just get up to read, study, or work on a side project.
And that dark, freezing morning in Chicago is the perfect crucible for testing this entire philosophy.
Because if you rely on motivation,
If you're waiting for a dopamine spike to make you want to get up, you will hit the snooze button every single time.
without fail,
Because your environment is signaling extreme discomfort. And your primitive brain's primary directive is to avoid discomfort at all costs.
so discipline is the bridge.
Discipline, as defined in this framework, is the bridge over that biological resistance. It's the force that gets you out of bed when your body is actively, chemically lobbying against it.
It's a conscious, logical decision.
Yeah, the decision that your long-term goal health, peace of mind, career advancement supersedes the temporary 15-minute comfort of staying under the blankets.
It's about shifting your internal dialogue from, I need to feel like doing it, to I am doing it regardless of how I feel.
Spot on.
I have to play devil's advocate here, though.
Go for it.
It's really easy to say, just use discipline to bridge the gap. But when your brain is literally flooded with sleep inertia, and every fiber of your being wants to stay warm, how do you actually cross that chasm? Doesn't just forcing it eventually lead to extreme burnout?
That is a phenomenal question. And honestly, it's a trap many people fall into.
Brute forcing it.
Right. Brute forcing your way through life will absolutely lead to burnout if you haven't fundamentally shifted your identity.
Okay, unpack that. Identity.
It's not just about gritting your teeth. It's a profound shift in how you view yourself. When you rely on willpower alone, you are fighting your own identity.
You're saying, I am a person who wants to sleep, but I am forcing myself to wake up.
Exactly. And that requires massive energy. The shift Hollins advocates for is becoming a person who simply does not negotiate with the alarm clock.
Oh, I like that. Non-negotiable.
You stop being a victim of the calendar, the weather, and your fleeting moods. You become the architect of your own mornings.
You unlock the power within, not by finding hidden enthusiasm, but by exercising the muscle of commitment until it becomes an automatic reflex. And if you're ready to start building that reflex with us today, please like, subscribe, and share for more updates.
Beautifully said. But, recognizing that we need this identity shift is really only half the battle.
Right. Chapter 2 territory now. Mind over matter.
Yes. If we know the brain desperately wants to stay under the covers, we have to look at the specific traps it sets to keep us there.
Hollins outlines 5 major mental hindrances, doesn't he?
He does. These invisible tripwires that actively block self-discipline and cause our good intentions to just fizzle out.
We need to flip the script. But first, we have to understand how the brain is actively working against us to preserve the status quo.
And this is where we get into the heavy lifting of self-awareness. You cannot defeat an enemy you don't understand.
And the enemy is our own evolutionary programming.
Yeah. These 5 roadblocks aren't signs of weakness. They are highly evolved survival mechanisms. They're just misapplied in the modern world.
Let's really break these down,
Mm-hmm.
because every single person listening has fallen victim to them.
Absolutely.
The first roadblock is the fear of failure.
A classic.
It's that paralyzing thought of, what if I put in all this disciplined effort, I wake up early, I do the work, and I still don't succeed?
That fear keeps you from even starting. It protects your ego.
Then you have the second one, the lure of instant gratification.
Which is everywhere now.
Everywhere. Why sit down and struggle through a complex business plan when you can get an immediate dopamine hit from watching a hilarious video right now?
Exactly. And that ties directly into the third roadblock, which is cognitive overload.
We live in an era of unprecedented information density.
We really do. And when you feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of tasks, emails, and responsibilities, your brain perceives that complexity as a literal threat.
And it just shuts down.
It triggers an avoidance response.
Which leads right into the fourth.
Yeah.
Perfectionism. I always say perfectionism is just fear wearing a tuxedo.
I love that phrase.
It looks classy and professional, but it's just a defense mechanism. If you convince yourself that you can't do a project perfectly, you give yourself permission not to do it at all.
It's a clever trick the brain plays. And finally, the fifth roadblock is decision fatigue.
By the end of the day, your willpower battery is completely drained.
Totally drained. From making hundreds of micro choices, from what to eat for breakfast to how to respond to a stressful email.
If we connect these 5 roadblocks to the bigger picture, the evolutionary biology behind them is truly astounding.
It is. We have to remember that your brain is essentially a 2 million-year-old piece of hardware.
Trying to operate a modern 21st century software program?
Exactly. For the vast majority of human history, the brain's primary job was to conserve physical energy and keep you safe from immediate life-threatening danger.
So starting a new difficult task, like studying for an advanced degree, launching a side hustle, or adhering to a rigorous new budget, requires an immense amount of cognitive energy.
Massive amounts. The brain consumes about 20% of the body's total energy, and deep focus burns through glucose rapidly.
So to our primitive brain, burning that much energy without an immediate survival payoff like finding food or escaping a predator is literally interpreted as a threat.
Precisely. It interprets the heavy cognitive effort as akin to physical pain or dangerous resource depletion.
That perfectly explains why sitting down to do hard, focused work feels physically uncomfortable.
Your brain is deploying fear, perfectionism, and the desperate desire for instant gratification as defensive mechanisms.
It is trying to keep you safely on the couch, conserving calories so you don't starve.
It's not a character flaw, it's a misfiring survival instinct.
That reframes everything. It's not that we are inherently lazy. It's that we are fighting millions of years of evolutionary programming.
Yes.
Let's ground this in a massive, very visible U.S. phenomenon. The March gym drop.
Oh, this is the perfect example.
Think about the fitness industry boom in January. You walk into a gym in Los Angeles, New York City, or Dallas in the first week of January, and it is absolute chaos.
Packed shoulder to shoulder.
Every treadmill is taken. The weight room is a mob scene. Everyone has that shiny new resolution and that January dopamine spike.
But fast forward to right now, to March.
You walk into that exact same gym, and it's a ghost town.
The treadmills are empty, the classes are half full.
What happened? People didn't suddenly decide they wanted to be unhealthy.
No, the desire didn't change at all. What happened was a violent collision between good intentions, evolutionary biology, and modern lifestyle exhaustion.
Walk us through that collision. Let's look at the daily reality of that LA or New York gym goer.
Okay, so they work a demanding 9-to-5 job. They are bombarded with emails, Slack messages, and rapid-fire decisions all day long.
Constant cognitive load.
By 5:30 p.m., they are experiencing massive cognitive overload and profound decision fatigue. Their prefrontal cortex, the logical planning part of the brain, is biochemically tapped out.
I can picture it perfectly.
Yeah.
They're sitting in their car, staring at the gridlock traffic, debating whether to go to the gym or go home.
And in that exact moment of choice, the primitive brain takes over.
It senses the fatigue.
Right. When they face the choice between battling rush hour traffic to go lift heavy objects, which the brain views as a completely pointless, dangerous expenditure of vital energy, versus going home, putting on sweatpants, and screaming a new show.
The brain's preference for the couch is overwhelming.
The roadblock isn't a lack of morals. It's the lure of instant gratification masking itself as necessary biological rest.
So flipping the script means recognizing that when you feel that intense, almost magnetic pull to skip the gym in March, it isn't the rational you making a choice.
It's your primitive brain running an outdated energy conservation script.
Once you can spot that mental roadblock, once you can say, that's just decision fatigue talking, you can override it with the logical, disciplined part of your mind.
It's about expecting the resistance as a biological reality rather than being surprised by it.
And if you're finding this biological breakdown helpful, please like, subscribe, and share for more updates.
Moving into Chapter 3 now. This biological preference for immediate comfort over long-term gain leads us directly into another profound psychological hurdle.
Time orientation.
Yes, Hollins dedicates a significant portion of his roadmap to how your view of time dramatically shapes your capacity for discipline.
The core concept here is that if you can shift your time perspective, discipline stops feeling like a forced, painful restriction and begins to feel like a natural extension of self-care.
This concept is massive.
It completely shifted my perspective when I was reviewing the notes. We really need to dive deep into the psychology of present bias.
Also known in behavioral economics as hyperbolic discounting.
This is the phenomenon where a small, tangible reward right now feels infinitely more valuable to our brains than a massive life-changing reward 5 or 10 years from now.
It's exactly why eating a donut today is so much easier than making choices for a healthy heart at age 60.
To our primitive brains, today is a concrete, tangible reality. 5 years from now is a foggy, abstract concept that might not even happen.
So the question is, how do we bridge that gap?
How do we connect with this idea of the future self to make the future feel real enough that we are willing to sacrifice our present comfort?
This raises a fascinating point about neurological empathy, specifically empathy for yourself.
Tell me about the functional MRI studies on this.
They are incredible. Researchers put subjects in brain scanners and asked them to think about their current selves.
Okay.
Then they asked them to think about a celebrity or a complete stranger. And finally, they asked them to think about themselves 10 years in the future.
And what did the scans show?
The results were staggering. When people thought about their present selves, certain areas of the medial prefrontal cortex lit up.
Making sense so far.
But when they were asked to think about their future selves, the brain regions that activated were the exact same regions that activated when they thought about a complete stranger.
Wow. So neurologically, we view our future selves as completely different people.
Exactly. Think about the implications of that for self-discipline.
If your future self feels like a stranger, why would you sacrifice your present comfort, your present dopamine, for them?
You wouldn't. You wouldn't hand a stranger on the street your favorite dessert. So why would you deny yourself a pleasure today for a stranger 10 years from now?
Therefore, the architectural work of self-discipline involves bridging that neurological empathy gap.
You have to bring that future self into sharp emotional focus.
You have to visualize them not as an abstract concept, but as the direct emotional recipient of your current actions.
You are essentially doing a favor for a beloved friend who just happens to be you.
I love that framing. But let's be real, it's incredibly hard to practically execute.
Very hard.
Let's look at a very specific US-based example of this struggle. The deep cultural clash between instant gratification consumerism and long-term financial planning.
The ultimate battleground for present bias.
In the American workforce, there is a constant agonizing tension between contributing a percentage of your paycheck to a 401k retirement account and the immediate dopamine hit of consumerism.
Imagine it's payday.
You have an app on your phone where, with 2 quick taps, you can have a gourmet, overpriced takeout meal delivered to your door in 30 minutes.
Or you can walk onto a car lot and finance a brand new vehicle with that intoxicating new car smell.
The reward is instant, tangible, and socially validated.
And contrasted against that vibrant, immediate reward, you have the 401k contribution.
Contributing to it means looking at your pay stub and seeing less money in your checking account today.
You get no immediate dopamine hit. You get no tangible product to show your friends.
You just get a line item on a digital statement that says you might have money in 40 years.
For the brain trapped in present bias, the 401k feels like a literal punishment, a loss of resources, while the takeout or the new car feels like a survival reward.
To exercise discipline in this financial scenario, you have to radically, intentionally shift your time orientation.
Right. You have to vividly imagine the life of your future self at age 65.
But how do you do that practically? You can't just say, think about being old.
No, that doesn't work. You have to visualize what it actually feels like for that 65-year-old version of you to have total financial freedom.
You have to imagine the relief of not having to work a stressful job when your body is tired.
You have to visualize being able to travel or having the resources to spoil your grandchildren without checking a bank balance.
When you make that future vision deeply emotional and concrete, suddenly putting money into the 401k doesn't feel like a restriction anymore.
It feels like you are actively building a bridge to that beautiful reality.
It completely reframes the act of discipline, from deprivation to empowerment. And if that shift in perspective resonates with you, please like, subscribe, and share for more updates.
Moving into Chapter 4, making that connection requires a level of maturity that leads right into extreme ownership.
Once you understand your mental roadblocks and you've started to align your time orientation, you have to confront the absolute necessity of personal responsibility.
Building self-discipline is entirely impossible without fostering a genuine, unshakable belief in your own ability to change.
Hollins emphasizes that this part of the journey is about building the inner conviction that puts the power of action squarely back in your hands.
This is the tough love section of the roadmap, isn't it?
It really is.
Mhm.
We need to analyze the danger of the victim mindset because, let's be honest, it is so incredibly easy and honestly quite comforting to use excuses.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just not wired that way.
Right. Or I have ADHD tendencies.
I wasn't born with the discipline gene like my brother was.
The economy is rigged against me.
But adopting that narrative is a psychological trap. It lets you off the hook.
We need to talk about the concept of agency. What happens when you take extreme ownership of your actions, including your failures and your character flaws?
Paradoxically, taking the blame actually reduces your anxiety and massively increases your control over your life.
It is a brilliant psychological paradox.
The victim mindset feels incredibly safe in the short term because it protects the ego. It absolves you of blame.
If your lack of progress is the fault of your genetics, your upbringing, a bad manager, or macroeconomic factors, then you don't have to feel bad about not succeeding.
The ego remains completely intact.
But the catastrophic long-term cost of that ego protection is your agency.
If you are not responsible for your failures, you are fundamentally powerless to create your successes.
Extreme ownership means looking in the mirror and saying, everything in my life, good and bad, is a result of my choices and how I respond to my circumstances.
While that sounds heavy and intimidating, it is actually the most liberating concept in psychology.
If your choices got you into this situation, your choices have the power to get you out.
Exactly.
I want to push back a little here, though, because I think a lot of people listening might feel defensive.
Let's hear it.
Let's apply this to the modern U.S. gig economy. There are millions of Americans right now working as freelancers, independent contractors, or balancing multiple side hustles on platforms like Upwork, Fiverr, or driving for rideshare apps.
A very volatile environment.
Highly volatile. In this environment, your income can fluctuate wildly based on things seemingly totally out of your control.
Oh,
Let's say you have a really slow month because a platform completely changed its algorithm overnight.
it happens all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
If an algorithm cuts your income in half, you are a victor of that system. How is extreme ownership not just toxic positivity or victim blaming in that scenario?
That is a crucial distinction to make. Extreme ownership is not about taking the blame for things outside your control. It is about taking responsibility for your response to them. You are right. The gig worker did not code the algorithm. They are not at fault for the market shift. But the victim mindset stops there.
It says, the algorithm changed, the market is oversaturated, clients are cheap, there's nothing I can do.
It leans into the external factors and strips the individual of their power. They spend their energy complaining on forums.
So what does extreme ownership look like in that exact same scenario?
The disciplined gig worker looks at that same devastating slow month and says, okay, the algorithm changed. I cannot control that. But I am 100% responsible for my income, so what can I control?
I can control my skill set. I can control my outreach.
Instead of spending Friday night complaining, they take extreme ownership of their trajectory.
They spend that Friday night taking an intensive online course to learn a new high-income skill that makes them algorithm-proof.
Like advanced SEO, AI prompt engineering, or high-level video editing, they choose to adapt.
Owning the choice completely changes the trajectory of their career. They stop waiting for the Silicon Valley platform to fix their problem, and they fix it themselves through disciplined action.
It's the difference between being a passive passenger in your own life versus being the driver, even if the road is full of potholes you didn't create.
When you own your choices, you realize that self-discipline isn't something that randomly happens to you. It's a tool you actively wield to shape your reality. And to keep shaping your reality with us, please like, subscribe, and share for more updates.
Taking responsibility means we also have to look at the exact mechanics of our daily failures. Chapter 5.
Yes, the nitty-gritty. Having taken ownership, we now need to deconstruct the actual behaviors that hold us back.
Hollins takes us through a brilliant dissection of the laziness and procrastination loop.
We need to identify the exact mechanics of our excuses and our avoidance behaviors so we can stop relying on brute willpower.
And start providing practical, actionable ways to interrupt that downward spiral.
Oh, the procrastination loop. We all know it intimately. It's the bane of modern existence.
It really is.
Let's trace the life cycle of this loop because it is so incredibly predictable once you map it out. It always starts with a trigger.
Usually a hard, complex, or ambiguous task that you need to do.
Immediately, that trigger causes emotional discomfort. You feel a spike of anxiety, a fear of incompetence, or maybe just a deep sense of boredom and dread.
And to escape that uncomfortable feeling, you engage in an avoidance behavior.
You pick up your phone, you open a new tab, you start scrolling through social media, or you suddenly decide the kitchen absolutely must be deep cleaned right now.
This avoidance provides temporary relief. Your brain gets a little hit of dopamine, you feel safe again.
But the safety is an illusion. Inevitably, reality sets back in. You realize you just wasted an hour, the task is still sitting there, and now you have significantly less time to do it.
The result: massive guilt, shame, and significantly increased anxiety.
Which means the next time you look at the trigger, the emotional discomfort is 10 times worse, making you even more likely to seek avoidance.
It is a textbook negative reinforcement loop. You are inadvertently training your brain to run away from challenges.
Exactly. So how do we break it? Because just telling someone to stop procrastinating clearly doesn't work.
What's fascinating here is the behavioral economics strategy to break this specific loop. You cannot just rely on willpower to suddenly power through the compounding anxiety.
Hollins emphasizes two key mechanical adjustments to your environment: creating friction for bad habits and greasing the wheels for good ones.
Friction means deliberately putting physical and psychological obstacles between you and the avoidance behavior.
And greasing the wheels means removing absolutely every possible barrier between you and the disciplined action.
Let's give a highly relatable, uniquely American example that induces panic in millions of people.
Tax season paralysis.
Every year, as the April 15th IRS deadline looms, a huge portion of the country falls right into this exact procrastination loop.
The trigger is the shoebox full of crumpled receipts, or the ominous envelope with the W-2s and 1099s sitting on the kitchen counter.
The emotional discomfort is intense. It's the overwhelming anxiety of doing math, navigating complex, punitive tax laws, or the terrifying fear of finding out you owe the government money.
So what do? We avoid it like the plague. We reorganize the garage. We binge watch an entire true crime documentary series.
We tell ourselves, I need a clear head and a full day to do my taxes. I'll do it this Saturday.
And by the time Saturday arrives, the guilt and anxiety have compounded exponentially, making that envelope even more terrifying.
To break the cycle of tax season paralysis, we must apply the engineering principles of friction and greasing the wheels.
First, you grease the wheels by shrinking the trigger. This is vital. You do not commit to doing your taxes.
That is a massive, ambiguous project that spikes anxiety.
You commit to just sorting one single pile of receipts for exactly 5 minutes? Or you commit to merely logging into the tax software and updating your current address, nothing more.
That drastically reduces the emotional discomfort to a manageable level.
And what about the friction side of the equation? How do we stop ourselves from opening a browser tab and looking at the news the second the math gets hard?
You introduce heavy friction to the avoidance behaviors. Behaviorists often talk about the 20-second rule. If you can delay a distraction by just 20 seconds, you dramatically reduce the likelihood of engaging in it.
So when you sit down for that 5 minutes of receipt sorting, you put your phone in a completely different room.
You unplug the router if you have to. You make it physically and annoyingly difficult to escape the task.
By forcing yourself to engage with the shrunken task for just 5 minutes without an escape route, you often break the seal of anxiety.
You realize the task isn't as physically dangerous as your primitive brain thought it was. Dopamine starts flowing from the small accomplishment, and momentum begins to build.
You interrupt the downward spiral by manipulating your environment, not just hoping for a better attitude. And to keep building that momentum with us, please like, subscribe, and share for more updates.
If we zoom in on that precise moment of friction, that moment where you force yourself to sit there without your phone, we're not just looking at behavioral psychology anymore.
We are transitioning into Chapter 6 territory, the neuropsychology of self-discipline.
We are moving from behavioral engineering to the actual physical hardware of the brain.
This section introduces the brain science basics behind willpower and self-control, and it is fascinating.
It is about bringing these discipline traits to life through quick, 5-minute exercises designed to literally physically rewire the brain for automatic self-control.
This is where we get to geek out on the neuroscience, and it is arguably the most empowering part of the entire roadmap.
Let's talk about the epic biological battle happening inside our skulls every single day.
On one side, you have the prefrontal cortex. This is the highly evolved, logical, long-term planner located right behind your forehead.
This is the CEO of your brain. It understands your goals, your retirement budget, and your diet plan.
On the other side, deep in the center of the brain, you have the amygdala and the basal ganglia.
These are the ancient primal centers driven by emotion, fear, habit, and the desperate desire for immediate comfort.
And the problem is, it's not a fair fight, is it?
Not at all. The prefrontal cortex gets tired incredibly quickly. It is an energy hog. It requires massive amounts of glucose to function.
The basal ganglia, however, runs on highly efficient autopilot.
When you are stressed, tired, or emotionally depleted, the CEO essentially goes to sleep to conserve energy, and the basal ganglia takes over, reverting to your most deeply ingrained, usually lazy, habits.
This is where the concept of neuroplasticity becomes the ultimate beacon of hope. For a long time, science thought the adult brain was fixed, that you were just stuck with the willpower you were born with.
But neuroplasticity is the brain's proven ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout your entire life.
The old saying in neuroscience is, neurons that fire together wire together.
This means that every single time you repeatedly force yourself to do something difficult, every time you choose the prefrontal cortex over the amygdala, you are physically changing the neural pathways in your brain.
Yes, and it's not just a metaphor. It's physical tissue.
When you repeatedly practice a disciplined behavior, your brain responds by insulating those specific neural pathways with a fatty white substance called myelin.
Myelin acts like the rubber insulation on an electrical wire. It makes the neurological signal travel faster, stronger, and more efficiently.
You are quite literally biologically making discipline easier the next time you try it. You are building a high-speed highway for self-control.
That is so profoundly empowering. It means willpower isn't a fixed tank that you just empty out and can't change. It's a muscle that you are actively building.
So how do we train this muscle? Hollins talks about these 5-minute rewiring exercises.
These could be things like deliberate mindfulness pauses, where you just sit and observe your intense urge to pick up your phone without actually acting on it.
You just watch the craving.
Or it could be deliberate micro discomforts, like taking a cold shower for 30 seconds at the end of your normal shower, or forcing yourself to sit in perfect, rigid posture for 5 minutes.
You are training the prefrontal cortex to exert top-down control over the body's immediate impulses.
Let's apply this to the high-pressure environment of corporate America. Imagine a mid-level manager who's about to walk into a highly stressful performance review.
Or perhaps they have to deliver a make-or-break presentation at a massive board meeting.
The trigger is the impending meeting. Their amygdala is absolutely screaming.
It perceives the social threat of a bad presentation as a literal life-or-death scenario.
Their heart rate is elevating, their palms are sweating, cortisol is flooding their system, and their primal brain is telling them to flee the situation.
If they just walk into the meeting in that state, they will be reactive, defensive, their voice will shake, and they will be unable to think clearly.
I can picture that so clearly. They are sitting in their car in the corporate parking lot, staring at the steering wheel, just dreading walking through those glass doors.
So what is the 5-minute rewiring exercise they can use right there in the driver's seat to hijack their own biology?
They execute a deliberate 5-minute mindfulness and breathing protocol.
They close their eyes and engage in deep, focused box breathing, inhaling through the nose for 4 seconds, holding for 4, exhaling slowly for 4, holding for 4.
At the same time, they actively visualize the successful, calm outcome of the meeting.
What is happening neurologically during these 5 minutes? The deep, slow breathing is stimulating the vagus nerve, sending a massive biological signal to the parasympathetic nervous system that they are safe.
This physically turns down the volume of the amygdala.
Simultaneously, the visualization is forcing blood flow back into the prefrontal cortex, reminding it of the logical strategy.
They are actively physically shifting the electrical activity from the reactive brain to the logical brain before they even step out of the car.
I do want to clarify something for the listener, though. One 5-minute breathing session in a car doesn't permanently rewrite 2 decades of chronic anxiety, right? We have to be careful not to present this as a magic life hack.
You are absolutely right, and that is a vital caveat. One session calms the nervous system in the moment.
But the rewiring, the actual myelination we talked about, only happens through consistent, repetitive stress tolerance over months.
It is the daily compounding of these microdisciplines that permanently alters the brain's default state. It is literal self-mastery over time. And to continue mastering these concepts with us, please like, subscribe, and share for more updates.
Because that neurological rewiring takes time, and because our biology is constantly fighting us, we can't just rely on brute force and breathing exercises every day.
We need infrastructure, which leads us powerfully into our next core theme, Chapter 7, Rock-Solid Principles for Lasting Motivation.
Now that we understand the brain science, we need to review the core strategies and quick wins that keep the fire burning over the long haul.
How do we transition discipline from a daily, exhausting cognitive struggle into an automated habit?
What is the actionable toolkit required to keep going when motivation inevitably, predictably dips to zero?
Because motivation will dip to zero. That is a biological guarantee.
So we have to look at the concept of systems over goals. Society loves goals. We think that setting a massive, audacious goal is what will push us forward.
But goals rely entirely on motivation. You set a goal to lose 30 pounds, and that vision excites you.
But on a rainy, freezing Tuesday morning, the abstract goal of being 30 pounds lighter is not enough to overcome the immediate comfort of a warm bed.
Systems, on the other hand, rely on discipline and automation. The goal is losing 30 pounds. The system is laying out your gym clothes right next to your bed at 8 p.m. the night before.
Having your coffee on a timer and having a predetermined workout plan that requires absolutely zero cognitive decision-making at 6 a.m.
If we look deeply at systems, we find the immense power of identity-based habits. This is a crucial paradigm-shifting concept in the roadmap.
It is the transition from saying, I'm trying to run 3 times a week, to internalizing the deep belief, I am a runner.
When you are merely trying to do something, it requires immense willpower because you are fighting your current identity. You are a non-runner trying to do runner things.
But when you shift your identity to, I am a runner, missing a workout creates psychological friction called cognitive dissonance.
It actually feels weird and uncomfortable not to run because runners run. It's who you are.
To support this identity shift, you structure quick wins into your daily routine to get dopamine working for your discipline rather than against it.
Every small promise you keep to yourself, like just putting on your running shoes, releases a tiny bit of dopamine, reinforcing the new identity.
I love the idea of weaponizing dopamine for good.
Let's bring this to life with a classic, deeply ingrained American ritual that perfectly illustrates systems over goals: the Sunday meal prep.
Let's picture a commuter in Los Angeles. It's Wednesday evening. They have just spent an agonizing hour and a half in bumper-to-bumper traffic on the dreaded I-405 freeway.
They finally walk through their front door at 7:00 p.m. They are physically exhausted, cognitively depleted from a day of decisions, and their willpower battery is flatlining at zero.
If they rely on motivation or goals to chop vegetables and cook a healthy chicken breast right now, they will fail 100% of the time.
The delivery apps practically open themselves.
Exactly. Wednesday at 7 p.m. is the danger zone. The prefrontal cortex is asleep.
The disciplined individual knows this. They anticipate the biological crash.
They don't rely on Wednesday's willpower. They rely on Sunday's system.
On Sunday afternoon, when they were rested, not stressed, and their prefrontal cortex was fully engaged, they spent 2 hours bulk cooking rice, grilling chicken, and portioning out vegetables into glass containers.
They built an automated quick win. They designed an environment where failure is harder than success.
So when our exhausted Los Angeles commuter walks in the door on Wednesday night, the healthy choice requires absolutely zero cognitive effort.
There is no decision to make. They open the fridge, grab a container, and put it in the microwave.
The system protected them from their own inevitable fatigue. They didn't have to be disciplined on Wednesday because they were exceptionally disciplined on Sunday.
That is how you make self-control automated and habitual. It's about outsmarting your future exhausted self.
And if you're ready to start building those systems, please like, subscribe, and share for more updates.
And that profound concept of outsmarting yourself brings us to the culmination of our journey today, Chapter 8, Living a Disciplined Life.
This is where we synthesize the key takeaways from the entire roadmap and discuss how to apply everything moving forward into daily life.
This isn't just about passively consuming information and feeling good about it. It is about providing reflection prompts to ensure this psychological knowledge translates into immediate, tangible action.
Let's really synthesize this incredible progression we've been on. We started by recognizing the fundamental mindset shift required, abandoning the cultural myth of constant motivation.
We then moved into understanding our deeply ingrained evolutionary barriers, like fear, energy conservation, and decision fatigue.
We learned how to identify and break the negative loops of procrastination by manipulating friction and greasing the wheels.
We looked at the actual brain science, realizing we can physically rewire our neural pathways through consistent micro-discomforts.
And finally, we learned to build lasting systems that protect us from our own inevitable exhaustion.
It is a comprehensive, scientifically backed architecture for the mind. But as we know, architecture is completely useless if nothing is actually built.
So here is the challenge for you, the listener. What is the very first thing you will do differently tomorrow morning?
Will you employ the 5-minute rule to tackle a task you've been avoiding for weeks?
Will you set up a friction-reducing system tonight to make tomorrow morning's workout easier?
Will you practice a deliberate mindfulness pause the next time you feel the urge to mindlessly scroll?
The knowledge is now firmly in your hands. The execution is your sole responsibility.
Let's reflect on this through the lens of the overarching American dream.
Whatever that dream looks like for you, whether it's starting a small business from your garage, going back to school to get a degree at night while working full-time, or just achieving enough financial independence to retire early and take care of your family.
Modern society loves to highlight the overnight successes. We are obsessed with viral moments, lucky breaks, the sudden explosions of wealth or fame on social media.
We see the finish line and assume it was a sprint.
But the research and the reality of human achievement across history tells a radically different story.
The dream is almost never achieved through a viral moment. The dream is built in the shadows.
It is constructed from the quiet, unglamorous, often incredibly boring, disciplined actions done daily when absolutely nobody is watching and nobody is cheering.
It is the small business owner balancing the books at midnight when their friends are out.
It is the student reading one more complex chapter when their eyes are heavy.
It is the investor quietly saving that extra $100 instead of upgrading their phone for social status.
It is the aggregate of thousands of tiny, seemingly insignificant discipline choices that ultimately compound to shape destiny.
It is about becoming the true architect of your will, laying one brick, one choice, one day at a time. And to keep building that foundation with us, please like, subscribe, and share for more updates.
As we draw this extensive journey to a close, we must synthesize the ultimate thesis of everything we've explored today.
Self-discipline is so often framed by society as a form of harsh punishment.
We view it as deprivation, a strict, joyless regime that strips the spontaneity out of life.
But what Peter Hollins' roadmap reveals is the exact opposite. Self-discipline isn't a punishment at all. It is the ultimate form of self-respect and the purest path to actual freedom.
By mastering your impulses, you free yourself from being a slave to your moods, your environment, and your primitive desires for immediate gratification.
You gain the profound, unshakable freedom to actually dictate the terms of your own life.
Think about the one thing you've been putting off because it's uncomfortable. Now ask yourself, if you were guaranteed that mastering that one uncomfortable task would completely rewrite your future, would you still avoid it tomorrow?
Thank you so much for joining us on this extensive and transformative exploration through the power of self-discipline. We hope you leave today feeling equipped, challenged, and empowered to take action.
Yes, thank you for locking in with us. Remember, the power is entirely in your hands to build the life you want. You are entirely capable of being the architect of your own will.
Until next time, take care and keep building.